ZNS Network, Bahamas.
The views expressed on this show, interview, or program are not necessarily the views expressed by the ZNS Radio Network and by extension, the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. What's the secret of change? We don't fight the old. Instead, we focus on building the new. Welcome to the Table of Change. Come on in and have a seat at our table.
Guys, I am dancing Bahamas because tonight is Table of Change. It's March 25th, 2025. And tonight, I want to remind you, we are talking about customer service, no matter the topic, because any two persons who connect, they're actually giving a service. And tonight, Tamara, are you as excited as I am?
Well, Jackie, I have to be. In order to be in Jackie's presence, you have to be excited. You have to be an overload. She's had all her sugar tonight, but she gets it from natural substances. That'll be dilly and canap and different things like that. So it's not Coke. It's not Coke or coffee. So I have to keep up with Jackie. But tonight here on Table of Change, we talked about it. We tapped on this topic before, and it was just so welcoming and so addressed. And people had so many questions that we said, okay, Jackie, we're going to have to revisit it again. And the topic tonight we're going to be talking about is speech occupational therapy. Yes, I said it. Take a minute, start texting who you have to text because you need them to listen to the show tonight talking about speech occupational therapy. So while you're getting your cup, you're filling it up with tea, coffee, or whatever liquid that you need to get all the information and the tea tonight, because we have two very young, exuberant speech therapists in the house tonight that are willing and able to attack this topic tonight. We're going to start with Miss Crystal Longpoy. Now, Krista is a certified and licensed pediatric speech and language therapist with extensive experience in assessing and treating speech and language disorders in young children. She holds her clinical competency certification through the American Speech Language Hearing Association and is a certified member of the United Kingdom Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists. One of the great things about Miss Krista is the fact that she's dedicating her service to this occupation. She has a decade of experience in pediatric speech and language therapy. Krista has a special passion for early intervention. I want you to welcome tonight to Table of Change, Miss Crystal Longpoy.
You got it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, this other lady, oh my goodness, she just has a smile that lights up a room. Her name is Shanika McIntosh Cooper. Shanika comes to us with a wealth of knowledge, a bachelor's degree in science of human occupation with a minor in psychology from DUville University, formerly known as DUville College, Buffalo, New York. One of the great things about this young lady is she has a passion for speech therapy. She wants to get the knowledge out there to the Bahamian people in terms of how we can take advantage of all the resources that we have with this speech therapy venture. She has a great knowledge and expertise working with neurodevelopment. Let's welcome tonight Crystal and our two guests, a Table of Change, Shanika and Crystal.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, you're going to help us out. Last time, it was so informative learning about speech therapy. And I've gotten so many questions, so I'm just going to start with one of the questions that was asked. The person that texted me said that she has a grandson, and he is 4 years old. Currently, if he has 15 words to say, she can clearly understand 7. Mm-hmm. We all know children progress at different levels and stuff like that, but she wanted to know, should she be concerned, and how do you judge when it's time to be concerned?
Yes, so when we're thinking about speech and language development, we always compare against known developmental communication milestones, right? So with this particular person that you're mentioning, with her grandson, you said 4 years old, only having a few words, that's definitely a red flag, and we would want to investigate, okay, why has he arrived at this point and not yet be communicating in sentences as you would expect for his age? And so when we're thinking about speech and language development, there are kind of clear markers at each age range that we're looking out for. So by 4 years, we're expecting a child to be able to communicate in complex sentences. So definitely with her saying he only has a few words, that would warrant some investigation, and most likely he would benefit from speech therapy services.
Your passion. Where did you get your passion to get into this field?
Well, for me, I kind of stumbled upon speech therapy. My first love was psychology. I was always really fascinated with the human brain and how we learn. And it was through my psychology degree that I learned about speech therapy through psycholinguistics, which is about how the brain processes and analyzes language. And my professor at the time was a speech and language pathologist, speech and language therapist, same thing. And my journey just kind of started from there. I always knew I wanted to work with children. And so it kind of just was a natural progression from there on.
Shanique, I got to ask you the same thing.
So, well, I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, which is a little bit different from speech therapy, but I always wanted to be in the medical field. I'm not quite sure at that particular time what I wanted to do, and I did field work or work study experience at Doctors Hospital in their rehab department, and I fell in love with occupational therapy. But the funny thing is, I never wanted to work with children. I'm like, they're a lot of work. They have multi-personalities. I don't want to be crawling on the floor. And here I am 15 years later working with pediatrics, and I love it.
Wow. Oh my goodness, you said, and you love it.
And I love it.
Give me a success story.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I think for me, one of the most rewarding things is when you have a parent that's so concerned, they come in, their child has no words, and then you hear them say their first word for the first time, right? It's a really beautiful moment. And then from there on, just kind of seeing their growth and knowing that you've been a part of that child's journey to improved communication. That's the best feeling in the world. It's super rewarding, and I think for me, it definitely keeps my love for the field of speech therapy ever growing, because it's really, there's nothing that can explain that feeling that you get knowing you've made that kind of impact in someone's life, especially for communication, which is a basic human right, human skill. So to know that you have a part to play in that's huge for me.
That's huge. I can think of so many, but one that comes to mind is not necessarily the child itself, but it's the family. Because it's not just the child that is struggling to be able to be independent in life. It's the parents and the family that's trying to grasp with this idea of my child having so many difficulties and what do I do? So there was one particular parent that came back about 3 or 4 years later, and they're like, we appreciate you so much because we were actually on the verge of divorce. We were fighting against each other because we were trying to figure out whose fault it was that my child turned out this way. And she said, you took my late evening calls, and I know it was after hours, and you were able to guide me, and you were able to support our family, not just my child. Mm-hmm. And because of your support and your resources and your love, that we're together as a family and we're progressing and we're succeeding. So being able to have that impact on a family unit, I feel like that was one of the biggest success stories. Not just one individual, but it's so many people were touching their lives.
Now, you touched on something I didn't think about. Having a child that has a speech problem. Mm-hmm. Can I say problem?
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
That has a speech problem. It really affects the household in that negative manner. Give me an example of what happens to put the pressure on the marriage.
Well, it's not just a speech. This particular kid was on the spectrum. So they had behavior issues. The child wasn't potty trained. They had difficulty placing them into school. The child wasn't able to do anything for themselves. It was just a lot going on. And father blaming the mother blaming the father, and really and truly it had nothing to do with either of them, but they're just trying to come to grasp this child that I thought would have been perfect. I had this perfect little image of a boy, and now he's no longer the image that I had in mind. It's so difficult trying to navigate life and navigate every day dealing with all of these challenges. And there was a lot of fighting and a lot of fussing and a lot of disagreements where, it wasn't necessarily the parents, but it's just dealing with the stress and dealing with having to figure everything out and dealing with it. And toddlers and children are a lot to deal with. Imagine if you have a lot more difficulties. It could put a strain on your marriage and your family life.
I'm trying to think of what other factors, like you see the child has a challenge in terms of speech. Like, what is something that could affect that speech before, or can, we can turn it around before we even get to speech therapy? Is it like the household? Maybe it's the way we communicate with the children that we have to look out for certain things, maybe speak in complete sentences, or how can we now be impacting this speech?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because in some situations we do have children that are just predisposed to having speech and language communication issues. They may have an underlying diagnosis that they're just born with, right? Like Shanika mentioned, autism, Down syndrome, any kind of chromosomal abnormality or neurodevelopmental issue. But in general, we do have some children that are just late talkers, and there are things that we can absolutely do as parents, as caregivers, relatives, to help mitigate the risks of those delays getting worse and having these longer term effects. So some like what you mentioned, providing a nice, rich, language-rich environment at home. So talking to your child, playing with your child, reading with your child, communicating with your child, taking your child outside to explore, not just sticking them in front of a TV, right? Those seem so simple, but from the perspective of a pediatric speech therapist, they are so powerful when it comes to being able to, like you said, stimulate those early language skills and prevent the risk of a delay worsening. Or a delay developing even, right? So that they are preventative or protective factors that can reduce the risks of those things happening.
So what do you think about baby language? Some parents still say baba instead of
Yes,
bottle.
that's a good question. That's fine, actually. So research shows that speaking to children, we call it motherese, or it's basically parent or child-directed speech, right? So we kind of have a higher pitch. We simplify words. We make syllables repetitive, like wah for water, and we kind of just simplify the way that we speak to kids. That's fine. Research shows that babies actually are more attuned to the rhythm and the prosody of motherese, and it makes it a little bit more salient from them. So it's fine to speak to your children like that. No worries with talking to your child in baby talk. Of course, you can use real words, but the TV shows that we see with the Miss Rachels and all of them, they use that kind of high-pitched animated voice because children are naturally inclined to listen to that more. So no issues with baby talk.
I always felt my children listen to reason a lot more. I'm going to share my story. My little one from the age of 5 months, I remember he was crying uncontrollably, and I said to him, "But you see I'm making the bottle. You see I'm making it. Mom's doing it right now." And I swear he looked at me and said, "I'm being unreasonable." He really did. His eyes opened up and he just kind of like, "Okay." And I learned that, you need me to explain. Don't smile with this behavior. Let you know that I'm doing it now. Be reasonable with Mom. Yeah. So I'm really curious about communicating and how soon can we tell when there's a communication factor. Now, my question, I do got a question. I digress. In terms of, okay, you're the mother or you're the parent or the adult that's seeing the issue in the child. What is the first step do I do? Do I go to the pediatrician and identify this problem, or do I pick up the phone and call a speech therapist? Like what is the points to hit when I'm seeing that this is a problem?
Go ahead.
Either option is fine. When it comes to speech therapy, you don't necessarily need to have a referral from a pediatrician. You can refer yourself and just come on in. Some parents may not themselves be aware that something is happening with their child and that their child is not meeting their milestones. So the pediatrician may be the first person, right, that might pick up that, hey, there's something happening here with your child, and may then refer them to specialist services. But either option works. One doesn't have to come before the next. Yeah.
Okay. Shanika, you agree with that?
I do. I also want to encourage parents to have perhaps one pediatrician. What is happening is that we're missing some of those delays because parents only take their children to the clinic, to the walk-in clinic, wherever, when there is a cold or a cough or they're sick. So they're not getting their regular checks where the pediatricians would check their developmental milestones to make sure that they are on track for, growth and development.
Like a well child
like
visit.
a wellness child visit. So and just to put out there in terms of resources, NHI has a program where parents could sign up. They have a list of pediatricians. They could sign up and be assigned to that particular pediatrician, and they would cover those wellness visits for those parents that are unaware. That's probably a good place to start. Those pediatricians would have all of your documents. You're not moving around. They know the child from birth to whenever they get older. So everything is in one place, and that may be helpful.
You know what? We're going to take a break. We're going to take a break because I know there's a few of you that come to the meeting late and you're wondering what's going on. What are we talking about? But the topic is that important. So what we're talking about is speech occupational therapy and with children. And you know someone. There's someone you want to text right now to say, hey, you need to listen to this, or you want to subtly put it in their mindset of something's going on, and you don't want to be the one to say it to them, but, get them to listen to the program tonight. Or you can call in at 325-5403 if you have any questions, or toll free 242-300-8255 if you're calling in from the Family Islands. I'm really worried about what, in terms of resources we have for speech therapy on the Family Islands. So if you're listening out there and you're a Family Islander, we need to get any one of these ministries or MPs involved while we have these beautiful young ladies in studio, Krista and Shanika, that need to come out there and deal with your speech therapy situation or questions you may have. I need you to call 325-5403, 242-300-8255. We're going to be back in a few minutes with Table of Change.
The best young athletes and the swimmers in the region will meet at the 52nd Carifta Games 2025 and the 38th Carifta Aquatic Championships 2025 in Trinidad and Tobago from April 19th to the 23rd. This is where raw talent, fierce competition, and national pride collide as young people from the Caribbean chase greatness, and the ZNS team will be there to provide updates for the ZNS radio and television network from beginning to end. Be a part of sports history. Carifta Update sponsorship packages are available now. Call your ZNS account executive today and support Bahamian youth in action.
Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union presents a Homeowners, Builders, and Garden Expo. It's all going down Saturday, March 29th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then again Sunday, March 30th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Kendall G.L. Isaacs Gymnasium. Over 50 exhibitors. Join yours truly, the one and only Hope Shelley Ann and the ZNS remote team broadcasting live Saturday, March 29th from 11:30 a.m. It's a Homeowners, Builders, and Garden Expo. Entry is absolutely free. For more info, call 815-8818. Come on out and hang out with me. See you there. We're 1540 AM, 104.5 FM, the national voice of the Bahamas.
Hello, I am Pastor Lester Thurston, a proud spiritual partner of the Carmichael Urban Renewal Team. I am graciously calling on all spiritual leaders to unite in a powerful mission of community transformation. Together, with faith as our foundation, we can uplift lives, strengthen families, and build safer, more harmonious neighborhoods. I encourage every spiritual leader to step forward and join us in this divine initiative, as together we can achieve the betterment of our district and inspire lasting change for generations to come. Let us lead with purpose, compassion, and unwavering faith, because united we are unstoppable.
Hello, I am Vernon Stubbs, Police Corporal, 2147 of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. This public service announcement has been brought to you by the Carmichael Urban Renewal in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Quality in a service is not what you put into it. It is what customers get out of it. And Table of Change gives us customer service at its finest. Tune in to Tamara Fox-Smith and Jacqueline Fernando-Moxie for Table of Change. Table of Change, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. right here on the national voice of the Bahamas.
Table of Change is here. Table of Change.
With myself, Tamara Fox Smith, and Jacqueline Fernando Moxie, we're going to bring the issue to the table.
The views expressed on this show, interview, or program are not necessarily the views expressed by the ZNS Radio Network and, by extension, the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Quality in a service is not what you put into it. It is what customers get out of it. And Table of Change gives us customer service at its finest. Tune in to Tamara Fox-Smith and Jacqueline Fernando-Moxie for Table of Change. Table of Change, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. right here on the national voice of the Bahamas.
Table of Change is here. Table of Change.
With myself, Tamara Falk Smith, and Jacqueline Fernanda Moxie, we're going to bring the issue to the table.
Table of Change. I understand there's a storm going on out there. We had a little storm here with our technology, but we are back on. I wanted to just add, I heard Mrs. McIntosh, you were talking about how someone called you and it was really not work time, and I want to commend you for that, because to me that shows passion. Whenever you have a passion for serving, someone can call you whatever time and you would be there for them. And I want to speak to the parents as well. Like, first of all, when you're expecting a child, let's try work on yourselves, because we really don't know what is going to happen, what would be a problem with the child. We have to prepare ourselves for that. And because I can understand parents blaming each other for something, but we really have to be the bigger person, because each child is different. Each child offers something different. You have some people who have slow in speaking, but they are great in something else. So what we have to do as parents, look for the positive. Always look for that silver lining, because it's like a miracle. I'm sure sometimes when you help children, you amaze yourself of how it happens.
Yes,
am I right?
definitely.
Okay, so remember now, the phone numbers are 325-5403. Family Islands, you have a big place in my heart, 300-8255. And so there we go. Let's take it over tomorrow.
Now, the topic tonight we're talking about is speech and occupational therapy. I'm learning tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Be patient with me, because what I really want, Krista deals with the speech part of it, and Shanika deals with the occupational therapy. So, ladies, I want you to break it down for me. Krista, the speech part; Shanika, the occupational therapy, and also give us an idea of your offices, telephone numbers, and how we can get in contact with you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so speech and language therapy is a field that's quite vast. It does serve the lifespan, but for the sake of this evening's discussion, I'll focus more on pediatric speech therapy, so speech therapy for kids. And speech and language therapy provides support, treatment, assessment, diagnosis for any breakdown in communication that a child may be experiencing. That could be difficulties with understanding words, with following instructions, responding to questions, having difficulty with expressing themselves. Perhaps a child is not yet speaking, even though we would expect them to be at the age where they should be verbal. Or it could be that they're having difficulties with their social communication or the clarity of their speech. So they're having some difficulties with individual speech sounds. I'm the owner of the practice Pediatric Communication Solutions. We have 2 offices, one in Marathon, one in Sandyport. And did you say you wanted the contact numbers?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Contact.
We can be reached at 443-7501 via phone or WhatsApp.
So as a pediatric occupational therapist, we provide assessment and intervention for children and adolescents, those who may have physical disabilities. So a lot of the kids that may have a brachial plexus injury, a cerebral palsy, who may have difficulty with moving, gross motor, fine motor skills. We help to facilitate and develop skills, cognitive skills for our intellectual disabled or our kids that have difficulty learning. We work on social self-care skills, handwriting. We work on all of those skills you would need to be able to function in life, whether it's at home, whether at school, whether it's in the community. For our adolescents, we work on life skills and vocational skills. What skills are you able to do to provide some type of income? Because we don't think that far for these children that grow up to be adults. What are they going to do after all of this therapy? We're working so hard on therapy and providing these skills, but we can't just do that for them to stay at home. So we're working on life skills. We're working on some of those puberty skills that parents don't think about. Oh, he's autistic. I'm not thinking about, the breast or the breast developing and how my autistic daughter is going to deal with a period and being able to understand that and changing all of those things. We don't think about that far, but here we are. That's part of occupational therapy as well.
When we talk about early intervention and early stimulation, what does that mean?
So early intervention is, it's more about providing services within the first critical years of life. So we know from research, it's well documented, that the majority of brain development happens within the first year of life. So you have a baby who's born, basically a blank slate, and then by 5, you can have an adult-like conversation with a child. Mm-hmm. So that amount of development that's happening within the first few years of life, with the brain rapidly developing, being very plastic, that's the time when it's best for us to provide intervention. So early intervention speaks to the importance of providing services within those first few critical years of life. And that applies to both occupational and speech and language therapy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when we say early, what do you mean? 3 months, 2 months, 1 year?
Birth to 36 months.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that's the sweet period.
In terms of, we're in a modern era, and we're in we want to be politically correct in this era, but some of us may not be knowledgeable in terms of the terminology we use, because sometimes terminology change. So if you're speaking with a parent about a child that's experiencing challenges, what words should we stay away from? Not to offend that mother or child or anyone that's dealing with a situation like this.
I think one word in particular is retarded. I think we need to just throw that word away in the bottom of the ocean. Slow learners. We tend to use that a lot. I think we need to not use that anymore.
Terms.
Okay. Yeah.
Those are the two big
What do I
ones.
Replace them with? What do we replace them with? How do we?
It depends on the difficulty that you're describing. We tend to use words now like neurodivergent to refer to a child that is not typically developing, right? So neurodiverse as well. We describe, it's fine to use words like delays, right?
Or may have some challenges or have some difficulties with so and so and so.
Yes, yes. So those would be kind of the terms that we would use to describe difficulties, yes.
I say that because I remember with Sunday school and not being adapted with, so many difficulties that children can be facing, and you're communicating with the parent, and I just want to make sure that someone's out there and listening is aware of what words we should replace it with, because you think you're talking and speaking from a place of love, and you can be actually offending someone.
Very
So
true.
I think that's why it's essential.
Yes.
How can the communities and policy makers better support your children with disabilities and the therapist's service?
I don't know where to start.
It's a big question.
She rolled her sleeves up, guys.
I really don't know where to start. Definitely we need to ensure that we're providing enough early intervention programs, right? We're flagging these children, but where are they going to receive services? One of the issues there, we don't have enough specialists in country. It isn't that we don't have Bahamian specialists, because we have Bahamian specialists all over the world serving other countries. However, we want master's and doctorate degrees in these fields, but we want to pay leaving certificate salaries. And that is part of the problem, where we're not having a lot of the specialists, the special educators, the occupational therapists, the speech therapists, all the support teams we need for these children. They're not coming back because they cannot live the way they would like to on the salaries that we kind of throw at them. I don't think we have a progression. We have a lot of special ed programs. The government has done pretty well with providing special ed programs in most of the primary school, and they do have some programs going up to senior level. But what happens after that? BTVI is a vocational institution. Why don't we have a BTVI special needs where we could have persons teach our kids how to be mechanics and help, utilize the skills that they have so that they can now work for themselves to bring in funds to take care of themselves in the long term. So that's just a small portion. Another pet peeve, I am Abaconian, proud Abaconian, and we tend to we're very Nassau-centric in regards to when we're talking to the Bahamas. Everything is the island of New Providence. But we neglect all of our Abaconians and Grand Bahamians and Androsian, Exhumans, Long Islanders. They need resources as well. So we are not really, everything is just here in New Providence. We're not really trying to help our family of islands and providing them with the resources or training or whatever it is that they need in order for their children to function too. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, for me, I mean, I think you're in a better position. I'm not Bahamian by birth, so
I can see Bahamian in you.
I'm a borrowed Bahamian. But I think advocating too, right? And awareness building is really important as well. Sometimes people don't even know that our fields exist until they have to walk that journey with their child. So doing things like this, where we're able to have these discussions in a public forum so that people can know, hey, if you have a child that is struggling with their communication, with their self-help skills, their motor skills, there are things that we can do to support them. These fields do exist to help advance those skills. So just awareness building, I think, is really important as well.
Tamara, there's a young cousin of mine that I know. He has challenges. But if you ask him to spell any word, if you ask him to add when I say any number, any numbers, he will do it from the top of his head. So we need some place where we can pull on their strength. Yes, so that they can, and they will, all of us have our weaknesses.
Of course.
And that's what I love about speech therapy and occupational therapy. We're like sister fields in terms of early intervention. We don't look at a child's difficulties. We understand that they do have difficulties, but more importantly, what are their strengths? How could we build on their strengths? How could we capitalize on what they can do? We're still going to work on some of the challenges, but it's not all negative. We don't want to look at a person as all negative. There are always some strengths. So how could we capitalize on that? And that's important. And that's what I want parents to know. We may look at the difficulties and it may be so daunting, but what about how they come and they hug you, or their ability to self-learn language? I have some kids who can teach themselves Portuguese. They may not speak English, but they can speak Portuguese and German. Like, how could you capitalize on that? Isn't that amazing? And it's not all bad. We have to look at the light at the end of the tunnel.
One other story for me. I have another cousin that she's deaf, so she have hearing aids.
Okay.
And guess what? She has a driver's license, and she's driving by herself now. And as parents, we are afraid, because I have a son who doesn't have none of those disabilities, and I'm afraid of him driving by himself. So we have to learn there are great things in each and every one of us. Let's pull on that. Let's look for the silver lining.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Now, DeAndre has a question for us. Please go ahead. Unmute, DeAndre.
Good night.
Good night.
I was wondering how you guys think, as a Bahamaland, we could be more inclusive to those with speech disabilities. Like, you guys have any ideas that we could improve in that way?
Yeah, it starts with acceptance, right? think about a person who has a physical disability. Let's say that they are having difficulties walking. A deficits-based approach would say, okay, this person cannot walk. A strengths-based approach would say the environment needs to be modified so that there's wheelchairs so that they can move, right? So it starts with acceptance and understanding some people's brains work differently. They process the world differently. And it's not about changing them to suit us, but instead changing our environments to suit them.
Everybody.
And are thinking towards them.
So that's where it starts. And that it's there's a whole lot of cultural kind of stigmas that have to be broken down to get there. But if we can slowly start reaching that point of acceptance, that would be a huge milestone. Yeah.
Yeah. And Tom, I think we are getting there because you know what? It's in so many families, just one or two in so many. It's more now than it used to be.
Oh, yeah.
And so because of that, we can see it and be not like, staring because we kind of, our heart goes out. And so we are now saying, hi, cutie. So I think we're doing better.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, we touched a little bit on red flags, but I'm still in my mind. I can see maybe, a Sunday school teacher or auntie or a cousin that, give me some idea of the red flags.
Okay. Well, for speech and language, we could talk for hours and hours about red flags, but some of the key ones to look out for, if we take it in different age ranges. So by 6 months, if we're not getting any babbling, any eye contact. These are things that we have to monitor and look out for. By 12 months, we should be getting a first word, right? And that seems really young, but that is the milestone, right? Between 12 and 18 months, we should be getting first words. By 24 months, we should be getting little phrases, little short sentences. And then from there, we just kind of keep building upon those skills. So, of course, at any stage, a red flag would just basically mean that child is not meeting the milestones that we would expect for their age. Now, there's lots of literature online to read up about milestones, but it's important for parents to make sure that they're reading from credible sources. Yes. So the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, they have a really great milestone checker. The American Speech Language Hearing Association, they have good milestones listed out there as well. The Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists, that's the one in the UK too. So it's good for parents to kind of check against those milestones just to see, hey, is my child doing these things, right? And if they're not, that's worth having a chat with your pediatrician, or even just erring on the side of caution, checking in with a pediatric speech therapist, just to be sure. At those precious ages, erring on the side of caution is always the route you want to take because of the fact we spoke about that those first years are so critical for development.
Yes. And I'll piggyback off of that, but I want to share a story. So I had a kid that came in, and there's always an intake form before we see you because we need to know what your medical history is. So I'm reviewing the intake form, and I'm noticing that this kid, when I'm asking, did he sit at 6 months? Was he rolling? When did he walk? And all of his milestones were delayed. So he didn't walk until he was 2. He wasn't sitting up until he was like 10 months. And I'm like, okay, Mom, these are signs and nothing. And Mommy noticed that something was a little bit off because she compared to the nephew and the godchildren or whatnot. And she was like, I was just waiting. My mommy said, they'll grow out of it. Or my cousin didn't talk until he was 2. Or don't cut his hair because before he talks. And if you cut, I'm like, okay. So I think a lot of it, yes, we need to know milestones, but we have to kind of debunk a lot of the cultural myths that kind of hold us back and keep us in denial, that keep us from really seeking the help. Because a lot of our parents, especially our mothers, they were like, I know something was wrong. I just couldn't put my hand on it. I know something was wrong. And, we have to make sure that we're not always listening to some of those cultural myths and go and get help when you have that inkling, especially as a mother, that something is not right.
One of the questions that's coming in is in terms of cost and availability. She's thinking that you should be pretty busy in terms of the amount of therapists, so she's wanting to know your availability and your cost, ladies.
Yeah, busy is an understatement.
It really is.
I don't know the exact number of speech therapists that there are now in the Bahamas, but it is nowhere near the amount that we need to meet the demand. We almost all have a wait list, which is wait list is a triggering word, I think, for any therapist in Nassau, in the Bahamas as a whole. But we're trying our best. The thing that people maybe are not always aware of is some of the times when we're working with a child and they begin services with us, they are not just going to be with us for a month. If we're working with a child, for example, who has a diagnosis of autism, they might very well remain on our caseload for a year or more than a year. So those spots that we have on our caseload are set just for them, right? So it's really a difficult process. Availability is limited, but as Shanika said, we do need more therapists, and we've been getting there. We've had some more come back home. Yes. So we're getting there. But it is the demand definitely outweighs what we're able to provide right now. We're trying our best.
Right.
Yes.
And I always recommend to parents, if you are on a wait list, you're trying to get a therapist, I always recommend perhaps speak with that therapist in terms of training. What can we do in the meantime until we are able to see you who are the expert? Can we come in as a family? Can we state our case or what concerns we have? Are you able to train us as to what we need to purchase, what we need to do, what strategies we need to use so that we are able to do it at home and tell you that our child is seen by a professional?
Let's say that again.
Because our parents tend to get discouraged. Oh my God, my child really need help so desperately, and they get frustrated, and I get it. I get why they're frustrated. But I'm always, we are always big advocates for education and trying to help persons. So just call and say, can I have a consultation? Can I have, a 30-minute consultation? I want to let you know what my concerns are. And then you tell me what I need to be doing at home, or what daddy needs to be doing, or what the teacher needs to be doing. So we are now able to implement those strategies to get the process started.
Because, Tamara, let me get this. Because parents, we have to play it real. Children never get it all from schools.
Oh, no.
It starts at home.
You have to do some of the work at home.
Yes.
When students or the child, is it normally that the parents can see what you're doing when you take them in?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's appropriate for the parent to be in, and like Shanika said, we do trainings. Other times, because we want to build that rapport with the child one-on-one, we may see the child individually.
Okay.
Yeah,
So at some point,
yes.
But after every session, we would have a conversation with the parent. Here's what we did today. Here's how the child did. Here's what I need you to do now.
Yes, great.
So there is. Remember, we're not just serving clients. We're serving a whole family. It's about the family unit.
Now, we do have one question. I see Keva have a question. If you're ready with your question, Keva, let me know.
Well, it wasn't somewhat a question. We was piggybacking on what was said in reference to parents taking on more proactive and a role where speech therapists or occupational therapists are extremely busy. I'm talking from experience because my daughter is deaf, but she has a cochlear implant, and I walked that journey many, many years ago. She's now 24, and so I back in her day when she was younger, the speech therapist was like I think was 2.
Yeah, probably.
So I actually was planning and starting my journey with that as well, to say, okay, I need to be becoming a speech or occupational therapist. But we as parents need to take it on. One of the speech therapists, one of those persons who I linked with, they were very inundated with patients and clients. And so I just needed a window. And I took a window of 15 minutes. And that became my lifestyle she just showed me 1 or 2 things that I need to do. And that became a lifestyle where other deaf children were coming to me for, quoting my hands up, therapy. Because I taught my daughter how to, she was taught how to hear the words by feeling the words, or the letters. Sorry. And so I taught her how to feel the letters, and the words came out, and that simple thing opened up a door. Now the cochlea implant is a whole different animal, and people think because the cochlea they are implanted now they can hear, but I always tell my parents, I tell them that's just 10% of the work. 90% is the parents. And that my daughter, I think Jackie referred to her now. She's 24, like I said. She has a driver's license. You know, she went off to boarding school, and she was the first step in the boarding school. She thrived in that environment. And she went off to university, 2-year program, came back, went now in her chosen field of early childhood education. I'm just saying the journey for us as parents, we have to embrace it and stop having the stigma that they can't. My daughter, if you meet her right now, and from she was younger, she just say everybody's different, and we are.
Yep.
I'm not Jackie, and Jackie's not me. I don't think like you, and no one thinks. So we are different, and that's the world that I taught her in. You're different, and you think different. You do think different. You process different. But guess what? We're gonna pull out everything else of your difference, because everybody's different. Everyone has something to offer, though. You know. So I break down that stigma very early in her. I taught her to know who she is, and knowing who she is and why she was created. And she is fearfully and wonderfully made.
Amen.
Our
That's
Father.
a great story. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much, Keva.
We do have another question. Do you provide speech therapy to schools?
Yes.
That seemed loaded. I don't know. That seemed loaded. Jackie, you better take your glasses off for this one. This could get deep.
We are in some schools.
Oh, great.
Yes, it depends on the school. There's a host of other factors that we have to consider when we're providing services to schools. But yes, the short answer is yes. Yes.
That goes for both.
I don't know. That seemed loaded. Do we need more visibility in the schools? Is that what it is, or?
It's a private school. It's not just is there a fee attached to it?
Yes.
Okay.
There is. And then we cannot just go into a school and see a child. You know, we have to have the parent consent for us to go in there and work with their child. So it's a process to be able to start up in a school. We'd have to kind of lay down the groundwork first before we start up somewhere.
Now, what I'm thinking, you could correct me, I'm just thinking out loud. In terms of the Ministry of Education and dealing with children that have challenges and they have particular schools, are you saying to me that we are not in those particular schools to?
No.
Not yet, you're saying?
Hopefully not yet.
Yeah.
Yes. I like that term. We do not have any occupational therapists into the government schools. I'm not sure about speech therapists. I think we may have one or two. I'm not sure. Through the Ministry of Education.
Yes. At one point, I think there were 3 speech therapists in the Ministry of Education. I'm not sure how many are there now, but they would have been the ones to service the public school system.
Okay.
As best as they can.
Brain ticking.
Oh.
So, at the beginning of the school year, when the Ministry of Education does their welcome teachers back, are you telling me that there's not a speech therapies on that lectern to try and make these teachers aware of what to look out for, red lights?
Or even to work with the teachers. The teachers are tired. They're doing their best. They need a support system, and we are there to support them and help them. And they do not have that support from us.
And they have such an important role,
They
right?
do.
Because sometimes if the parent might miss that something's going on. So the school is sometimes, the teachers are the first ones that might see, hey,
Yes.
you know,
They see.
something isn't quite right
So
here with
much
this
more.
child, you know. So the training for them is very important.
About speech therapists, so this would
Yeah.
be for you.
Okay.
I think from Charisma, Kevin's daughter,
Okay.
she could not hear, and the hearing affects the speech. Because she was able to afford a cochlea. You know what I wish, Bahamas? I wish every Bahamian, because I think there's so many people here that they're not speaking properly because they cannot hear. If we could raise $1, we have the Table of Change is going to start a lot of stuff. Because if we could just give something to these children, so at least once a year, one child can get a cochlea. Wouldn't that be great? Because they're not speaking because they cannot hear tomorrow.
But I
It was
wonder,
so amazing.
I wonder how long it took to realize that we cannot hear. And I'm not saying that for Kev. I'm just saying children going to the pediatrician and before these, before they even
Well, like
diagnosed.
Shanika said, those well visits with the pediatricians would be where they would do routine hearing screenings.
Yeah,
and
they
if
do a
they
little
pass
carrying
yes,
vision.
See if they
They check all of those, all the senses, and if the child doesn't pass those, then they may refer to a specialist, an audiologist, and then that's how the process. But whenever we're doing a developmental screening of any kind, we always check the hearing because, like you said, the hearing and the speech are so closely related. You have to rule out that there is nothing happening with the ears before we even think about, okay, this child is delayed or there's something else going on with their communication.
Man.
You know what I'm hearing, and I'm getting alarmed. And you know when I get alarmed, my brain starts ticking. I'm just thinking in terms of the Out Islands. We spoke on it in terms of the knowledge and getting it out there via Zoom. I mean, are the principals encouraging and reaching out to speech therapists in terms of, okay, we know everything is a cost, we know everything is a fee, but at the end of the day, I know you ladies know how important it is to get this message out. Is it receptive?
People are calling from the islands. That's the easiest way of putting it, because more parents are very concerned. So Krista and I have been almost on this advocacy journey to really try as best as we can to reach the family islands.
Now, we tapped on that. We're going to get right back to that because we have Shanika Adderley calling from Long Island. Shanika, please go ahead.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm so glad you called tonight.
Yes, it's my first time calling your show.
Thank you.
We thank you.
Yeah, this is the show every Tuesday.
Oh.
Okay.
What you talking about?
We're talking about occupational
Therapy and speech.
And speech
speech.
therapy. And just identifying it in children and trying to get an idea of what to look out for and how could we help. And, it's amazing that you're calling from Long Island because we're really worried in terms of getting the message out to the family islands in terms of what to look out for. So we're happy that you called tonight and you're listening. So, Shanika, we are happy that you called tonight and you were listening to us to let us know that the message did get out to Long Island. I'm so sorry I did interrupt you. Please go ahead. You were saying in terms of...
Krista and I have really been advocating and trying our best to provide education to a number of special groups within some of our islands. Krista will talk about maybe going to Grand Bahama. We've had... conversations and training and some assessments with a group in Abaco. So I think parents are now and teachers are now seeing the need. So they're coming together and they're forming their own groups and they're starting to reach out. There are very little of us and we live in an archipelago.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I'm glad you said that because that's what I was thinking. I'm
so
like,
we're
it's too much.
trying our best. We can't spread ourselves too thin, but we're trying our best to really educate and to train and follow up as best as we can to those in the family islands.
I want to say something to Shanika Adderley because I don't know which line she called on, but my phone number is 449-9106. So next week you'll have the Zoom link and you'll be able to come on Zoom instead of calling in and you get disconnected.
Now, we cannot go without saying it again. I know time is running out, but please, Krista and Shanika, give us your location, the name of your office, and the telephone number to contact each and every one of you.
Okay, so once again, I'm Krista Leongpoi, pediatric speech therapist. Pediatric Communication Solutions, we're located in Marathon and in Sandyport, and you can reach us at 443-7501. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
My name is Shanika McIntosh Cooper. I'm the pediatric occupational therapist, owner of Occupational Therapy Consulting Services in the Harbor Bay Medical Center, and you can reach us at 437-8259.
Ladies, it was informative. You gave us a lot of what they said, food to feed on and tea to drink tonight, and we just thank you for just taking the time and breaking it down for us. We sometimes we know a little bit about a lot. We don't know a lot about everything, and we're put in a situation where we're aunties and we're grandmothers, and we see this stuff going on, but we don't know how quite maybe to approach the subject. So I'm glad that we took a step back in terms of being educated on the subject, and also allowing us to know what are the taboos in terms of what to say and not to say when we're speaking to a parent that are dealing with these challenges with children. And also, we want to say that Table of Change is always of being of service, and a part of being of service is listening out for those red flags. So any teachers.
I want to sneak one thing in. You know, when I stepped into the pediatric communication solutions, and they were on a test and they didn't know, and that's how they got here tonight. The service was so great. The lady, what's her name? Let's call her name.
Dramika Maki.
Man, she was the best. I got the answer within about half an hour that she would come on the show. So Table of Change, we are out to change the way you get service. I'm Jacqueline Fernanda Moxie.
Tamara Fox-Smith.
Shanika McIntosh Cooper.
And Crystal Youngpoy.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.